Hello everybody and welcome to this episode where today I'm doing a bit of a voiceover, so you're hearing me from the future, not from in the video, and this is me in editing. So today I want to cover the actual episode itself in two parts, because I filmed this in the early hours so I was quite more relaxed and quiet, and there was a lot of points in the video where I felt there wasn't enough description about what's going on, what I'm doing now, you know, not describing as much as I'm just playing through. So in a minute we'll get the cutscene where it explains the house's history, and then after that I'll continue talking. So until that point I'm just going to explain quickly that this is one of the luxury houses renovations, and it is an interesting house. It's got a lot of culture and history and I actually enjoyed it, but it did have quite a few points in it where it confused me. For example, the side of the building, it wanted two doors there. Anyway.
My grandmother poured her soul into this place. She was a renowned writer and musician. I love everything here, but all those stairs, scratches and nasty mold stains. So please, don't change it too much. It's remarkable how well the garden still looks. But let's get back inside the house, since it should be your main job. I can't wait till I'll be able to play this piano. Have you noticed those paintings? I've heard one of them was a gift from my grandma's dearest friend. This would be a perfect reading nook for rainy days. I've never had a chance to meet Nana, but I just know she was my kindred spirit. Oh, this bedroom? It just shouts artiste, don't you think? There's so much space. Both of my children should be able to find their own spots. I'm so thrilled to move in. Don't make me wait too long.
Okay, so with that said, we're now going to get on to starting with the garden itself. Now, at first I decided to get out our trusty little, well, tiny tool that's powerless in this situation, and then at some point in my mind I just went, I'm an idiot, and I ran back to the pathway and then got the lawnmower out and said, you know what, this is exactly what I should use. So turned it on full and just started really going to town on it. Now I'm not going to make you watch the whole of this in this current speed, so we're going to speed up the cutting off the grass, purely because the grass cutting itself on its own is a big chunk of this video. So enjoy the speeded up grass cutting. Once again, we are now cutting the grass at a bit more of a appreciable speed. It's not as long as it took in reality, and you're just seeing a speeded up version of me cutting the grass before we get to cleaning the exterior of the building. This is a pretty big build, and one of the things I realised at this time in the morning is that I felt kind of tired but not tired enough to sleep because of the weather's been so hot lately, so I decided to do a few extra episodes into the early hours, and when I came to this one I was a bit concerned that I'd have to actually leave and just come back to it later, but in the end it didn't take as long as I first feared, if I'm very honest. I think one of the big things that came out of this that was apparent is just how complex this build is. Like, even just setting these chairs here, you see me clearly standing back up. You know, this is a small piece of what is a giant garden, and the entire place needed cleaning from top to bottom. So it wasn't exactly the simplest thing on earth. When I decided I was going to clean then pick up stuff when I felt appropriate, and not stop to pick up stuff along the way, and that in itself was a feat, because there is glass broken everywhere. All these windows are bashed and broken. Each one of these windows has to be replaced, and I kind of at the moment at this point sit back and go, oh, what have I brought myself into? Because the windows have to go, the wallpaper needs redoing, the floors need redoing, the room's furniture all gets replaced, we've got to renovate a piano and some of the furniture, and we've got to also maintain the physique of the house's original style, and that is monumentally difficult. So at this point I'm just going around washing it, thinking, how on earth am I pulling this off? what is my mood board on this? Because I know they've got their own, and I just decided, you know what, we're just going to start with the way I see it. Right? Walk around and be like, yep, what's going, what's staying. And what I found annoying is that you have to replace the windows by opening them and getting to that middle bit. But the middle bit's on the inside and I'm on the outside, so with the opening windows, it's a bit more of a pain. The ones that don't open though, it's a bit easier, so I was just going around, pointing at them and doing that. So, and the ones I had to open it, that's that. Now I only did the downstairs ones obviously because I can't reach the roof from here, and the upstairs ones, sorry, I'll be doing them later on when I get upstairs. For now it's just a case of getting what I can from the exterior, making sure I've cleared everything up nice and easily. I made sure to hose down this pavement here just to make sure it's nice and clean, because ultimately this is going to be someone's house, is what my mentality is about this. There isn't a situation where it isn't, and I noticed this weed here and it really bugged me to the point I went and got it manually. And yeah, it's really funny that I take so little time for the little details as much as I take little time for the big details in some situations, but in other situations I spend all day on the tiny details, you know. So with this, there's so many little details that need fixing that I knew I was going to get hooked up on how am I pulling it off, where am I putting stuff, what's going to go where, you know. And even looking outside, I'm like, do I get rid of the plants, do they stay, you know. And I'm looking for this weed here, look at me, right, trying to find what is not gettable, you know. And I literally spent this entire time, you can see it, I'm like, where is it? Because the map shows it. Now I'm going to assume it isn't actually there anymore and it got destroyed when I cleaned up the area. So I kind of just went, yeah, okay, that's not going to stop me from getting 100% on this. It's really not. So at this point, just decided to get out the trusty old mop and whiz around. And well, this was the first room I had entered in, and I decided to make sure the doors were shut and just to see what I was dealing with. So I wasn't going to go into other rooms because I know myself very well. And what I found is these doors are terrible. But then I went straight into the piano. Worst mistake possible, because this thing, look at it. I thought this would be easy. It is not. You've got to get the entire thing sanded down. And oh my lord, is it cumbersome. I couldn't believe how detailed they'd gone with this. Like, and I didn't want to press the X, so I didn't. I just looked where I'd missed and kept going around until I got a yes, you've done it, and I realised it's underneath I'd missed. And then I got it. At this point, yeah, I wanted to go back with the white. I wanted to try and maintain what I think was white on the finish, purely because the paint that's kind of rusted off is white, so my assumption is it's white as well. And we got this lovely top piece. I really like this, and I thought to myself, that is really, really cool. So I can see immediately why a musician would love that, because I loved it, and I haven't played the piano in years, absolute years, so it was pretty interesting. But again, getting to the lovely pedals, I've always loved seeing pedals on pianos, but I've never known what they do. Genuinely, I haven't got a clue. You know, I used to mess with them in church. You know, my grandfather was a pianist in the church, and at the end of church service he'd be like, yeah, go and mess with the piano. Giant organ built into the church wall. And I'd never understood what they did. I never asked him either though, so that's a sad thing that I never really considered. Again, little details, when you're younger you don't. And in this case, this brought me back to that moment. I was like, what do pedals do? So I decided I would actually look it up in this moment, not now, but before this, when I was considering it, because it came back up in my mind. And I was really curious to find out, really, because they're there and everyone sees them, and yet no one, you know, tells you what they're for. And the funny fact is, and I now know this, it's to change the instrument sounds in various ways. They usually have 3 pedals from left to right, and all it does is it goes from a soft pedal to a bit more of a damper pedal. So it softens and dampens and affects how the sound of the piano is transmitted out. So in other words, it's just like a high pitch, low pitch kind of messing gizmo. That even understanding that it's just the sound, I don't understand how it does that, and now I want to know that. And that would be something I'd do in church if I was still in that church. That is the kind of thing I did with the piano in church. All the way down. And yeah, now we're just back in here and we're just looking at what they want, you know, us to take away. And really it was a case of figuring out what they do and don't want. And oh, was it a pain. Because one of the things that bugs me about the game is how it says, oh, we're not playing Thief Simulator, as if you're intentionally trying to rob something. And it's just a little pet peeve of mine. I know it's probably not. And this is the point where I go, well, let's see how many rooms we're doing. That is why this is a two-part episode, guys. You just saw how many rooms there are. It is giant. It's not even funny. So at this point, checking they want the doors. I'm looking around, checking what's going, what's staying. And I just get rid of the doors that are on the interior. I get rid of the chandelier. And then I see this giant stain on the ceiling. After getting rid of the Roman curtains, obviously. And I'm like, how in God's earth did that get up there? Even in the original audio soundtrack, I go, what the hell? What was Margaret doing when she had a glass of wine? Was she, oh darling, I just flick it like this, huh? Flicking a wine out the glass and it got on the ceiling? I'm like, how? You know? Obviously in reality it's probably mold or water coming through the top, something like that. But it was just like a funny moment that I had in the recording where I was being really sarcastic with myself and making a joke. And I did something immediately. I got rid of the doors, I left the room, and I realised that. And I was like, nope, can't do that. I'll span out and I'll cover too much ground too quickly. And I'll get lost in what I'm doing. So at this point, I went, let's just get the floor down. This floor that's already down is hideous. It looks like someone bought a cheap walnut, you know, vinyl and just laid it down and never changed it for 50, 100 years. Obviously, that is preponderous to think about, and it's not possible, but it's just the thought that was in my mind. Anyway, we have this giant couch that I had to put somewhere, and I just felt that corner there, right up against the wall, was the most appropriate. And then I realised we are having a giant table in here too, and that's when the penny dropped. I've got to build a table with 6 chairs and have a couch behind it, and it just didn't feel right. But at that point I'd already put the couch down and I thought, I don't want to really adjust the room entirely. I want to kind of keep the piano where it is, and to move the couch to where I wanted it, I had to move the piano, you know, and I want to keep that positioning of the piano because that's where we find it. So no point, you know, changing the house in any way like that. And at this point I regret this. I put it on the fireplace. I should have put it on the middle of the table, you know, but at least I did it symmetrically, you know. It should have 2 on that table there, the coffee table, instead of 1 in the middle. But it doesn't matter. With that said, we now have these haunted house, and this is what I say in the recording, haunted house style lights that I do not like. I would probably lose my sanity if I saw them every day of my life. Thankfully, this isn't my house, so I can rest easy tonight knowing that I only had to look at them for a voiceover on an editing video once more. Fortunately, I missed a bit of the floor. I said row then. Floor. And apparently I also missed a basic English class. But at least I spotted the door there. But I didn't spot the one behind. Embarrassing, I know. Now we have this really sleazy hallway, and well, you just saw then, that's a moral to get rid of the rug. Why have the rug? Just why? That's all I want to know. You know, I kind of kept the red and the nice fancy millionaire style-esque. So we went with the millionaire's kind of household theme, and I went upstairs and I started just cleaning up the place again as usual. Realised that someone really had an accident up here. Whether that's, you know, bodily or that's material like liquids and contents, I don't know. But again, I'm spanning out now, and I've done what I always vow not to do in these builds, and that's take more than I can chew at once. And this does come back to bite me later, because I spend more time spanning out and doing stuff the wrong way and then fixing it than doing it the right way and not having to fix it. So, and at this point I got tempted to already decorate in this room purely because it offered, you know, for me to do that. But then here's a point for the devs. In one room we get rid of that light in the bathroom. In this room we keep the light. I don't know why. But again, I just wanted to clean up the place for now, not do anything major, and get rid of these, what I thought were really cool, you know, curtains. I mean, they look cool, don't get me wrong, but they definitely have had their use by date by now, so not the best. And obviously at this point, we're just clearing out the rooms of the stuff that they don't need, and it's pretty tasking because you have to work out what stays, what goes, how you can use what stays utilizing wise. And at this point I just wanted to have a see what type of panels there were, and I was just putting them out, getting a feel for it, and then I decided we're going to do the front room first, and we're just going to see what it wants in here. And I look at this and I'm like, where's this going? And I'm like, it must be the new front door. So then I confirm my theory, get the door out, and I put it on the wrong way. I realise this straight away because, watch this, when I open the door, it's not right. And you can tell it's not. So I immediately get rid of it and then realise I've goofed. Now I could have actually gone into the rebuy in the store menu, but I forgot all about that, so I just went all the way around and back into the building again. And at this point I just remembered not to do that to myself. So we get the door out once more, and this time I flip it around and then it does this weird indent. So I wasn't too sold on having it like that, but in the end I went with it. Right, look at it, it's better for the doorway. So I'm debating it, as you can see in the video. It's better for the doorway, but I just wanted to experiment with it. And at this point I just said screw it, leave the door where it is. It won't make a difference. And I was spending that long on that tiny detail, for example. That is a pinnacle point of how this ends up. I'll, you know, worry about the door facings. It doesn't matter. Not really. You know, well, it would in real life, but not this. So at this point I just said to myself that exact same thing. Relax. It's the morning. You're not awake to sit here and worry about doorway positionings. You're here to relaxingly plaster every wall and paint every surface and enjoy it peacefully. And this is when I realised you can't do it onto the stairs. So at this point I'm just like, oh, how do I fix the stairs then? Well, me talking now, I know how. I hadn't clicked off the broken ones. I just don't remember if I ever actually fixed the stairs colouring. So I'm hoping I did. Because if I didn't, and I'm saying it now, that's going to be me pointing out an error. But that's what happens in life. We all got to address our errors, and at this point, I'm trying to work out where this door goes. Okay? Any guesses? It's the front door. So at this point, I'm like, okay. Okay. The game thinks the door's not there. So I place it again. But I indent it by one. And watch this. Done. It didn't mind which way it's facing. It minded that it wasn't in the right position. And then I realised we're putting another couch in the reception. Where? I didn't want to cram it anywhere, but I ended up putting it under the damn stairs. I just didn't know where blooming heck this was supposed to go in the first place. I was blown away by this. I was like, it's too big to fit against any wall reasonably. you know, so I just tucked it in there and made use of that space there and said, hey, no one's going to complain. And then I put this chair against that wall and I debated if the couch could go there, and the answer's no. I even went back to see if it would make sense putting it there, and it just doesn't look right. So yeah, and I put the doorways on, made sure that they're facing the front of the house like all the other doorways. Let's keep some consistency with that. And that's kind of important with these doors because it's where you face it, so it matters in a way. Not in a big way, but in a way it does. And at this point we're just installing some lights, and it's pretty straightforward. I decided to put a light under there and one there. And with this room done, I decided to sell the wallpaper and go upstairs. So, or in here, sorry. My brain is not with it, apparently. I wrote in my notes I went upstairs, but clearly not. And that's because those notes are for the next episode. And since I'm so disorganised, I might as well say this. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in that next episode. If you wanted to go to that, it'll be on screen now. See you there.